California is in a perplexing predicament, caught between severe drought and significant flooding. How can such contrasting water extremes plague a single region? Welcome to our channel. Today's video will unravel the mystery and uncover California's audacious solution, constructing a mega dam worth billions of dollars. But before we delve into the mega dam project, let's first grasp the water situation in California. Water scarcity has been an ongoing battle in the state, presenting a constant challenge. Vast stretches of California, including the Great Basin, Mojave, and Colorado regions, are officially recognized as deserts. Even centuries ago, when American settlers arrived, they struggled with water scarcity, impeding their agricultural endeavors. Unfortunately, the situation hasn't significantly improved in recent times. To address the dire circumstances, the governor of California declared a statewide drought emergency in October 2021. Citizens were urged to reduce their water consumption by 15% to rectify the situation. Fast forward 18 months to 2023, and the state of emergency still persists. California has now endured over 1,000 days of officially declared drought conditions, highlighting the pressing problem's severity and prolonged nature. However, there is more to the story. Amidst the prolonged drought in California, an unexpected deluge occurred, resulting in severe flooding in certain areas of the state. The floods caused damage to towns and cities, claiming the lives of 22 individuals, and leading the governor to declare a state of emergency once again. California is facing the simultaneous challenges of drought and floods, which might seem contradictory. This situation arises from the management of water resources. During periods of heavy rainfall, a significant amount of water inundates the region, causing flooding. However, only a small portion of this water is effectively collected and stored. Once the rain subsides, most of the water either drains away or flows into the sea, leaving the state in a drought as if it had never rained. It's akin to filling a bathtub with water, but unless you block the drain, the water will eventually drain away. This predicament is what California is grappling with. They struggle to gain enough water during the rainy months to compensate for the drought periods. Instead, the water situation in the state is like a swinging seesaw. Sometimes there is too much water, and then suddenly there's too little. This keeps happening over and over again. The big question is, can they do something to solve this problem? Well, they have definitely tried. Back in the 1950s, the state faced a similar problem with frequent droughts and floods happening one after another. At that time, the state decided they had enough and came up with a plan called the State Water Project, or SWP for short. The goal of this project was simple. They wanted to find a way to save extra water when there's a lot of rain so that they could use it when there's not enough. To make this happen, they built more than 20 dams in the beginning. These dams allowed them to collect a huge amount of water in really big reservoirs when it rained a lot. One of the most famous reservoirs they created is called Lake Oroville. It's located behind a dam called the Oroville Dam, which happens to be the biggest dam in the whole United States. It's really tall, standing over 200 meters high. This reservoir holds hundreds of millions of cubic meters of water. Another famous reservoir they made is Pyramid Lake, which is near Los Angeles. When there's a drought, they can distribute the water from these massive reservoirs to farms and cities. It's quite an impressive process. They have a big system of canals, aqueducts like big pipes, and pumping stations to move the water around. Some of the water even travels hundreds of kilometers and goes over mountains to reach where it's needed. The California Aqueduct is a very important part of a special system that manages water in California. It goes from the Sierra Nevada mountains all the way to Los Angeles and branches off to provide water to millions of people along the way. One interesting challenge happens at the Edmonston pumping plant, where the water needs to be lifted over the Tehachapi Mountains. This is like trying to pump a river over the top of a really tall building, called the One World Trade Center. The Edmonston pumping plant is actually the highest pumping facility in the world. The whole water management system in California is really advanced and impressive. But when it was built in the 1960s and 70s, it was only the first part of a bigger plan. The idea was to build more dams and canals in the 80s and 90s. Unfortunately, those plans were delayed because California had a lot of debts and money problems. There were also concerns about the environment because changing the natural flow of rivers caused problems for some local fish. Salmon and steelhead trout, which swim upstream to lay their eggs, had a big drop in their populations because they couldn't get to their usual breeding areas anymore. So, California decided to stop building more dams and canals for now, hoping that the first stage of the project would be enough. At first, the new water facilities made a big difference. About 2/3 of the water collected by the system went to cities, and the rest was used to water orchards and farms. The whole system was estimated to bring in about $400 billion to the state's economy every year. But unfortunately, in recent years, the parts of the state water project that already exist have had some problems and limitations. When the components were first created, California had fewer than 20 million people. However, the number of people living in the state has doubled over the past few decades. This increase in population has also led to a higher demand for water, which the existing dams and canals struggle to meet. As a result, California has experienced many problems with drought. Climate change worsens the situation. The average temperature in California has risen by almost 2 degrees centigrade in the last century, causing severe heat waves and exacerbating droughts. With a growing population and an outdated water management system, California urgently needs an upgrade. The state has decided to construct the site's reservoir to address these issues. This reservoir will be located a few kilometers north of Sacramento in a narrow valley surrounded by cliffs and hills. The area is currently dry and covered with yellowish grass, bushes, and trees. There are only a few buildings and clusters of residents. Although not officially recognized as a town, the location is marked as sites on the map. The state plans to flood the valley and transform it into a lake. The project aims to create an environmentally beneficial reservoir that captures excess water from the major storms and stores it for drier periods. This idea has been around since the 1950s. It was almost included in the first stage of California's water management project, but they decided it was too expensive at $4 billion. Instead, they focused on other projects like the Oroville Dam. However, in the past few years, they have changed their minds. They believe this project is worth the cost. The site's reservoir won't completely solve California's droughts, but it will definitely help. The reservoir can hold more than 2 cubic kilometers of water, enough to provide a year's drinking water supply to hundreds of thousands of homes in California. So, how will they build it? They will start by building dams to fill the gaps between the hills at the edge of the valley. The main dams will be the Sites Dam and the Golden Gate Dam on the eastern side of the valley, with additional dams in the north. These dams will turn the valley into a large, waterproof container. Then, they will need to fill it with water. Usually, this is done by blocking a river and letting it flood the valley. That's how the Oroville Dam was filled. They blocked the Feather River and waited for the water to fill the valley behind the dam. The site's valley doesn't have any major rivers, only shallow creeks. Because of this, they will need to fill the new reservoir using a different method. About 25 kilometers east of the valley, the Sacramento River, the biggest river in California, flows. They will likely use water from the Sacramento River to fill the reservoir. During the rainy season, the state intends to extract water from the river and transport it across fields, hills, and towns to deposit it into the site's valley. This process can be likened to a massive water tap filling an enormous container. In drought, the stored water can be released, bringing relief to nearby areas. Despite the significant energy required to pump water from the river to the valley, the SWP believes it is worthwhile, especially because they can recover some of the expended energy. When water is discharged from the reservoir, it will pass through hydroelectric generators, supplying approximately 80% of the power needed for the initial pumping. Construction is set to commence in 2024, with a potential extension into 2025. The project is expected to be completed within 6 years, around 2030 or 2031. Some individuals express disappointment over the delayed timeline, wishing for an earlier completion. In early 2023, California experienced severe floods, resulting in a massive surge of rainwater rushing down the Sacramento River. The absence of the operational site's reservoir during this time was a missed opportunity to capture the flood water, which could have been used to sustain over 200,000 Californian households throughout the year. Jerry Brown, the executive director of the site's project authority, emphasized that the site's reservoir was specifically designed to handle such scenarios with intense water flows over short periods. This missed opportunity raises concerns about potential future losses. However, there are some perceived disadvantages associated with the project. Some individuals expressed concerns that the project's financing might lead to a potential 300% increase in the price of water, raising worries about affordability. While the occurrence of this price hike remains uncertain, it remains a significant cause for concern. Environmental groups have raised questions about the purpose of supplying additional water if it becomes unaffordable for people to purchase. They also have concerns about the potential negative impact of pumping water from the Sacramento River on migrating fish. Unlike a dam, such as the one at the Oroville, which disrupts the environment and obstructs fish migration, the site's project involves an off-stream reservoir that does not impede the flow of the Sacramento River. Many fish species depend on deep, cold pools for breeding, which often become warm and shallow during dry seasons. The site's reservoir would replenish these pools and maintain the necessary depth and temperature for breeding. While the project's primary focus is meeting human water needs, supporting other species is also a goal. The realization of the project is still dependent on securing sufficient funding, but as things currently stand, the reservoir is expected to become operational by 2030. Please share your thoughts on this addition to California in the comment section below. Thank you for your attention, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.